Everything is on fire at once, and America is facing all of it alone. Iran is striking across the region, the United States is dropping ordnance across Iranian territory with no end in sight, and every single ally Washington thought it had, gone. This is not a prediction. This is not a worst-case scenario. This is what is happening right now today, and we are going to break down every piece of it. Here is the situation on the ground. Iran is striking Bahrain, Dubai, and targets deep inside the region. The United States is conducting sustained strikes across Iranian territory at a scale that goes well beyond surgical precision. Iran keeps launching those ballistic missiles. Those Shahed drones keep coming in, wave after wave. And somewhere in the middle of all that, President Zelensky of Ukraine walked into the UK Parliament, stood before both houses, and delivered a message every defense minister in the Western world should have been listening to closely. He said, "We know how to fight this kind of conflict. We know how to intercept Shahed drones. We built our own fleet from scratch. We built sea drones. We built systems no other military on the planet currently has operational experience with." If you want to understand modern defense, you need to be talking to Ukraine. And here is something not getting nearly the coverage it deserves. NATO recently ran a full military simulation. All combined NATO naval assets on one side. Ukraine's drone forces on the other. Sea drones, aerial drones, first-person view combat systems. Ukraine won all 5 scenarios. All 5. NATO frigates were sunk. NATO detection systems never picked up the Ukrainian forces at all. They did not even see them coming. What that tells you is that modern conflict has moved on entirely. The new battlefield is drones, countermeasures, electronic warfare, and adaptive software, not carrier groups, not frigate fleets. Donald Trump should have understood that before any of this started. His national security team should have understood it. Instead, what have they been doing? Trying to rebuild the relationship with Vladimir Putin. And not just in the past, right now, today. Sanctions against Russia are being lifted. Russian oil is back on global markets. And what is Russia doing with the financial breathing room that creates? According to the Wall Street Journal, Russia is supplying Iran with military equipment and intelligence. Intelligence on how to locate and strike American assets in the region. So, let us walk through that chain of decisions carefully, folks, because it matters enormously. Trump lifts Russia sanctions. Russia exports more oil. Revenue flows into Russian military operations. Russia transfers equipment and intelligence to Iran. Iran uses that intelligence against American forces in the region. And what does Trump do when he finds out Russia is actively working against American interests in a live conflict zone? He lifts more sanctions. Think about that sequence for a moment. Sit with it. Now, let us talk about a development that may end up being the most consequential story of this entire crisis. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi has publicly stated that a new post-conflict security architecture for the Strait of Hormuz needs to be established. And what makes that significant is, who is saying something almost identical at the same time? French President Emmanuel Macron has been floating a very similar framework in recent days. France and Iran are in contact. Italy and Iran are in contact. Regional powers and Iran are in contact. What they are all working toward is a new operating framework for the Strait, and the defining feature of it is that Washington is not at the center. In this model, Iran controls access. Any country moving cargo through that passage needs to negotiate directly with Tehran, bilaterally, without the United States as the guarantor. If you track live ship traffic right now, vessels are hugging the Iranian coastline. Reports indicate naval mines have been laid across sections of the strait. Traffic is down sharply, and this matters because 20 to 30% of the world's oil and gas moves through that passage. Agricultural commodities, fertilizers, a massive share of global trade. The moment Iran restricts that access, the global economy registers it within days. The countries feeling it most acutely right now are the Gulf states, the Arab nations that believed they had a deal with Washington, the ones that paid for protection and expected it to be delivered. According to The Times, despite a $500 million investment by senior UAE officials in a Trump-linked cryptocurrency company, the Gulf states received zero advance warning about the U.S. strikes on Iran. Zero. Washington collected its payment and delivered nothing in return. Now here is a number that should stop every conversation about American global standing cold. A CNN analysis found that favorable views of the United States have dropped 79% across 24 surveyed countries since this operation against Iran began. 79%. That is not a dip. That is not a gradual slide. That is a structural collapse. Canada, Japan, the United Kingdom, every major allied nation showing numbers that have not been recorded in decades. When you compare where U.S. favorability sat in 2024 to where it sits in 2025, it is not a trend line going down. It is a cliff. The global position the United States spent 70 years building is being dismantled in real time. And what was Trump's public response to all of this? He posted that the United States no longer needs or wants participation from NATO allies, Japan, South Korea, or Australia. He said he was not surprised that those partners declined to join the operation. The exact same partners he told us were fully on board just days before. The same coalition he claimed to have assembled. The same allies he said strongly agreed with everything the United States was doing. So, did they suddenly change their minds? Or was there never a coalition in the first place? Was there ever a real agreement? Did those nations actually commit? Think about every statement Trump has made about ceasefire discussions with Iran, about allied support, about the diplomatic groundwork supposedly laid before any of this started. Where is any of it? He said it. None of it was real. He has been making claims about every dimension of this crisis that do not correspond to what is actually happening. And the allies who have been around long enough to see the pattern have simply stopped accepting it. Senator Lindsey Graham then announced he had spoken with the president about European allies refusing to deploy assets to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and that he had never heard Trump so angry. Graham said he shared that anger. Great, the senator is furious. What does that accomplish exactly? Is he going to hold a press conference and express deep concern? Is he going to send a strongly worded statement to Brussels? The European governments already made their calculation. They looked at how this crisis was initiated, how it was managed, what consultation did and did not happen, and they said no. Outrage from Washington does not reverse that. Here is UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer when asked directly about involvement in the broader conflict. And Starmer has been completely consistent. Every statement points toward de-escalation, toward ending hostilities, toward a negotiated resolution. France holds the same position. Italy holds the same position. Every major European government wants this contained before it expands further. And while they are calling for de-escalation, Trump is out here teasing whether 5,000 Marine Expeditionary Forces heading from Japan toward the Strait of Hormuz are going to be deployed, leaving open the question of a full ground operation in Iran. Treating an active crisis like a season finale, people are caught in the middle while he is building suspense. The best way to reduce the impact on ordinary people, whether it is the conflict itself, the spike in energy prices, or just the anxiety about what this means for daily life, is to de-escalate, end the hostilities, reach a negotiated settlement. We are working with all of our partners to make that happen as quickly as possible. Yesterday, Trump hosted the Prime Minister of Ireland for a meeting, and during that meeting, Trump decided to take a shot at Keir Starmer. He pointed to the Winston Churchill bust on display in the Oval Office, noted that Barack Obama had removed it and he had brought it back, and made the comparison plainly. Keir is no Winston Churchill. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because Trump apparently did not factor in that Ireland and Winston Churchill have a historically complicated relationship. The Irish Prime Minister did not take the bait. He acknowledged the transatlantic relationship between Europe and the U.S. as genuinely important. He noted that trade tensions from the previous year had been resolved, and that a resolution is reachable again. He mentioned meeting Keir Starmer the week before, and that the British-Irish relationship is one he values. And then, with precisely measured language, he said, Churchill was a great wartime leader, though from Ireland's perspective, his role during our own struggle for independence created significant difficulties for us. Keir Starmer has put real work into resetting the British-Irish relationship. He is a serious person, and you have worked well with him before. Now let us come back to that NATO simulation, because it connects every thread in this story. 5 full naval scenarios. NATO brought its entire fleet. Frigates, destroyers, full assets. Ukraine operated its sea drones, aerial drones, and first-person view combat systems. Ukraine won all 5, not 4, all 5. NATO ships were sunk. NATO detection systems did not register the Ukrainian forces until it was already over. This is the shift in military technology that is redefining what power means in a modern conflict. And it raises a direct question. Why is Russia sharing satellite imagery and drone technology with Iran right now? Here is the answer. Russia is taking losses in Ukraine, and it knows it. Trump has handed Russia a financial recovery by lifting oil sanctions and sending Russian crude back onto global markets at a moment when crude is trading at $103 to $105 a barrel. That number is heading toward $150 if the Strait of Hormuz stays restricted. You are already paying over $5 a gallon for diesel. Gas is approaching $4 nationally. Russia is running significant revenue from those prices right now. And it is directing that revenue toward Iran because Russia's strategic goal is to draw the United States into a prolonged Middle East crisis and redirect American attention and resources away from Ukraine. And while all of that is happening, Trump is focused on his personal relationship with Putin. Zelensky stood before both houses of the UK Parliament alongside Keir Starmer and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and delivered one of the most operationally substantive addresses on modern defense that any sitting world leader has given in years. Let us be direct about what that image represents. Ukraine is a country under active assault, operating on limited Western support, and it currently holds the most advanced real-world understanding of drone combat, drone interception, electronic warfare, and sea-based autonomous systems of any military force on the planet. We have to go further. We have to build modern defense forces together, only together, with all of our allies across Europe. We need every level of air defense, against drones, against all categories of missiles, including ballistic. Our seas must be secured. Our forces in those waters must be protected against every category of threat. Europe has both the capacity and the obligation to defend not just its own territory, but everything it stands for. We believe in people, in their rights, in their freedom, in culture, in nations living in genuine lasting peace with mutual respect. Together, Europe is a global force, one the world cannot function without, one that no adversary can ultimately outlast. We have to build those strengths. We can do it, and we must. Here is the development timeline Zelensky laid out. They started with basic kamikaze drones. Then they built drones with mounted turrets capable of engaging helicopters. Then came systems capable of intercepting Russian fighter jets over the Black Sea. They developed surface vessels that carry and deploy other drones. They built boats that strike land targets from the water. They are now developing long-endurance platforms built for open ocean operation. Underwater autonomous systems are in active testing, and Zelensky said it directly. The Strait of Hormuz is exactly the kind of environment where these systems solve problems that a conventional fleet cannot. Ukraine is currently producing a minimum of 2,000 combat-tested interceptors every single day. That number scales with investment. Their operational need is approximately 1,000 per day, which means they have surplus production capacity of at least 1,000 units daily available for partner nations. Beyond the production numbers, Ukraine has built layered radar and acoustic detection systems that identify approaching Shahed drones and other aerial threats before they arrive. They have software that maintains radar functionality under live electronic warfare, jamming in real time. The system reads enemy signal frequencies and adapts to them continuously. It gives commanders a live operational picture of defense effectiveness against every type of incoming system: drones, cruise missiles, ballistic. And it deploys anywhere. If a Shahed needs to be intercepted over the UAE, this system handles it. If it needs to operate across Europe or the UK, it handles that too. It is a question of technology, investment, and coordination. The fact that Ukraine came through this past winter with sustained targeting of its power grid, its heating infrastructure, its civilian areas, and still functions as a military force and as an active technology exporter for Western defense systems tells you everything about whether these solutions actually work. So, here is where everything stands right now, folks. The United States is conducting a military operation in the Middle East without a coalition, without allied participation, without a clear end objective, and without the confidence of the Gulf states it was supposedly protecting. Global favorability toward the United States has fallen 79% across 24 countries. Oil is at $103 a barrel. Diesel is past $5 a gallon. Russia is the primary financial beneficiary of this entire situation. And Ukraine, the country this administration has been working to cut off from Western support, holds the most advanced operational understanding of the exact defense systems that would matter most in the Strait of Hormuz right now. This is the full picture. Every thread connects to every other thread. The financial story, the military story, the diplomatic story, and the human story are all the same story told from different angles. We are going to keep pulling on every one of them, covering every country, every city, every development. The summary level coverage does not have time to reach. Hit subscribe and stay with Global Daily Wire for the complete picture every single day.